When President Joe Biden put Vice President Kamala Harris in charge of the crisis at the southern border, I don't think she knew what she was getting into. It is a no-win job unless President Biden is willing to undo his executive orders that allowed more people to cross the border, which he has no intention of doing. So how do you fix a problem if the most obvious solution is off the table? In May, over 180,000 people were apprehended at the southern border, and that number just keeps going up. The 3-month average now is the highest in almost 3 decades, and this doesn't count the people who weren't apprehended, the people who got through. And the number of unaccompanied children being left at the border because of Biden's executive order that they all get through is just heartbreaking, as witnessed by this video of a 5-year-old crying for his mommy after being left at the border. Again, just heartbreaking. But instead of dealing with the problem at the border, Vice President Kamala Harris traveled to Guatemala to meet with Guatemalan President Alejandro Giammattei because many, including children, are traveling the 1,500 miles from that country to the American border, but the meeting didn't go as planned. Giammattei told Kamala Harris that President Biden's message that he would not turn away unaccompanied children at the border has been used by the coyotes to convince families to allow them, for money, to take their children to America. But the coyotes also work for the cartels.
So a huge wave of migrant unaccompanied children starts. That's a matter of concern because as soon as they cross the border between Mexico and the U.S., they fall into the hands of cartels, prostitution networks, and so on.
So according to the president of Guatemala, coyotes are using President Biden's message that unaccompanied children can cross the border and get into America to convince those families to pay them so they can take the children and deliver them to the cartels for human trafficking. We wouldn't have known that was the case if it wasn't for Vice President Kamala Harris's trip. You see, when she goes, a contingent of American journalists go too, looking for stories. And Harris is getting it from all sides. Republicans and conservatives are upset at the administration's policies that allow more to cross the border illegally. And because of that, the vice president said at a news conference in Guatemala this to those who were thinking about making the trip.
Do not come. Do not come. The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border.
But that comment didn't go over well with progressives in her own party.
It's wrong and it's inhumane.
From Guatemala, the vice president then visited Mexico, where the Mexican president has also criticized President Biden for the problems at the border.
Expectations were created that with the government of President Biden, there would be a better treatment of migrants. And this has caused Central American migrants, and also from our country, wanting to cross the border, thinking that it is easier to do so.
Nothing concrete came from the trip. Yes, there was a memorandum of agreement between the United States and Mexico to stop human trafficking, but it was mostly ceremonial. Vice President Harris and the President of Mexico didn't even sign it. They observed the signing of the agreement that has no teeth. So the Vice President, to fix the problem at the border, went to Guatemala and then Mexico and skipped the border.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
I'm here in Guatemala today. At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
I didn't go to Europe? Really? Let me try to succinctly make the point that the vice president is searching for. You were put in charge of the crisis at the border, and you haven't been to the border to talk to the people most affected. That's the point. Even Democrats are admitting that the trip was a flop and may haunt Kamala Harris for some time. But you have to give it to Teflon Joe Biden. He is a crafty politician. He knows there's a crisis at the border. So his solution, send Vice President Kamala Harris. Put her in charge. Let her take the blame. I'm Larry Menti. We'll talk again soon.